Hello and welcome to this session on Applied Innovation Live. I'm Shyam, I'm your host, and in this session, we are going to discuss about a very popular framework known as the Lotus Blossom, which is a very popular creative problem solving technique. And we are going to use this framework in the context of innovation to solve a business problem. So one of the unique things about this framework is that it gives you a very visual and a diagrammic way of solving a problem by kind of picking up the central theme around the problem and diverging it into multiple different divergent ways or ideas to solve that problem. So I'm going to explain that framework to you, and we are also going to see an AI prompt to basically generate ideas to solve that problem for the typical innovation challenges that we face in the day-to-day business, right? So let's dive in and understand this framework in more details. Okay, so here's the mind map. So let me just unfold it one by one, and you'll understand how this whole framework works. So first of all, so this is Lotus Blossom, and let's look at some specifics of this framework. So this is a creative diagramming approach to generating diverging ideas from a central theme, right? Just like the lotus petals, they actually diverge and they fan out from the central axis of the flower, the lotus flower. Similarly, in this case also, you have a central idea, and then you have a set of diverging ideas that actually diverge out of it, right? So that's why it is known as lotus blossom, and then you can actually iterate over it multiple times. Now, this framework is best for ideating disruptive and divergent solutions themes around a problem and expanding them into sub ideas and specific action items around those ideas. Now, since I mentioned about this visual diagrammic approach, let me show you some examples of that. So, I've got two references, one from Lucid Meetings and another from Visual Paradigm. Right. So, let me just expand this and yeah. So the diagrammic approach that I was talking about was something. It looks something like this. So you have a central theme. So this is actually a example for a company to see how they can improve their meetings, how they can have better outcomes from their meetings, right? So better meetings is the central theme, and then they have expanded the central theme into eight multiple dominant ideas, right? So this is clear intentions, right people, right process, and then fun, and then shared notes, and all these things, right? So these are all the dominant ideas, right? So they have this central axis, which is a central theme, and then they have listed these dominant ideas around it, and for each dominant idea they have created a separate sort of a matrix structure where they can list down eight action items to achieve that dominant idea, right? So if you are saying, if you want to have clear intentions as one of the dominant ideas to achieve better meetings, then you can list down eight ideas to achieve that clear intention. So similarly you can list down eight ideas for having the right people, the right processes, the fun, and all those things. So you actually get 64 ideas, so eight dominant ideas around the central problem or the theme, and for eight ideas you get eight action items, which gives you 64 possible ways of solving that problem. Let me show you one more example, which is from the visual paradigm. It's very similar. So basically, yeah, so you have this whole matrix, right? You can put it on an Excel sheet or a Google sheet and describe the idea right in the middle, and then describe the eight dominant ideas and then expand them individually, right? So this is how you can actually have so many ideas, right? So if you count them all, you actually get 64 ideas. So here's another example, right? So improve the service consumption. So maybe this is a problem for a company, so they have some problems with service consumption, right? So around that they have listed eight ideas, And for each of these eight ideas, they have further expanded them into eight possible action items, right? So in this way, you can diagrammatically map out the Lotus Blossom framework into a sheet or a chart or an Excel sheet, and then you have so many ideas to play out with. And then you can actually, run a poll within your team to see which ideas to pick, and then pick them, and then you can just try it out as an experiment, right? So this is the whole crux of this framework. Right. So now let's come back to the mind map and let's understand a few situations where you can actually use this framework in your day to day business context. Okay. So I've listed three problem situations here. The first one is a product management situation. Okay. So you could ask a problem statement saying, how can we differentiate our product from the competition, right? This is a very genuine and a very common concern for various product management teams, right? You could also have a service specific situation specific to customer service. So how can we, in what ways we can help customers increase their productivity, right, while using our services. And then you have a process oriented situation. So let's say we take a sales process. So the question becomes, what are the additional ways to increase the perceived value of our offer, right? This is also a very common sales question, right? So you can use any of these questions as your central theme, right, which is around a problem or a situation that you're facing, and then give some more context around it, and then you can actually have so many ideas. Okay. So here's how you can actually diagrammatically map it out, right? So this is very similar to what I showed you with the earlier examples, right? You have the core problem right in the middle, and then you generate eight ideas related to solving that problem. And for those each ideas, for each and every idea, you actually expand it separately, and you get eight action items to achieve that idea, right? So once we combine all of them, you get actually 64 action items to address that problem. Now you can do this manually, but then you can also leverage AI to do that. So I'm going to show you one prompt with which you can achieve that, right? So this is a prompt. Let me just 1 second. Yeah. So the prompt goes like this. So I want to solve a domain specific problem. So you have to mention the domain here. Okay. So a domain using the Lotus Blossom Framework. We offer product or service. So you have to mention a product or service here to the industry. Mention the industry in the form of a offering and with a certain USP, the unique selling point, such that we achieve a certain value proposition, right? So you have to mention all these things as per your industry or your product or your offerings. Now, the main challenge while this context, you have to mention the context here, is the actual challenge statement that you have, right? So you have to mention that. And then you have to ask the AI to think like that specific domain expert. So the same domain that you mentioned here, and use the Lotus Blossom to analyze the context and come up with the possible options, right? So again, it will analyze your prompt, define the central theme, give you eight ideas, and then for each of the eight ideas, it will give you uh, the action items that you can perform to solve that problem. Okay, so let's look at a real scenario of using this prompt for a real business situation, and let's see what's the outcome that we get from the AI. Right. So I've already run this prompt on Perplexity, and so let me explain the specific business scenario that I've taken in this case. So for this case, I want to solve a sales problem. So I've taken the sales situation that I explained earlier using the Lotus Blossom framework. We offer services to the CPG industry. So CPG is consumer packaged goods in the form of data and analytics practice with a proven record in delivering value to the global CPG players, and access to an in-house subject matter experts such that we can reduce the overall total cost of ownership of the analytics technology stack and reduce time to the insights. So these are the domain and the industry and the USP and the value proposition that I'm defining as part of the initial context. for the prompt. So now the main challenge is, while prospecting new customers, we what are the additional ways to increase the perceived value of our offer, right? So think like a sales expert, which is the same domain that I mentioned earlier. Use the Lotus Blossom to analyze our core offerings and come up with the possible options. So this is the prompt that I've given, right? I've defined the domain, the context, the industry, and everything. And I've already run this prompt, right? So as you can see, once you run this prompt, it'll give you some options. So the eight primary petals, which are the eight primary ideas, the dominant ideas for solving this problem. So it has listed it like this. So customization for client specific needs, tangible ROI demonstrations, exclusive expert access, risk reduction trials, bundled support packages, technology innovation edge, collaborative partnerships, and personalized success pathways. So these are the eight dominant ideas that it has given, right? So it has not shown it visually, but it has listed it out. But you can actually draw it visually using post-it notes on a physical board, or virtually you can do it on a sheet, right? And now the most important thing is, each of these eight dominant ideas have to be further expanded into action items, right? So let's say for the customization of client specific needs, it has given me three action items, right? So develop an industry specific models, um, example for CPG supply chain or customer behavior, to address niche pain points, or create flexible dashboards that integrates seamlessly with clients existing tools, reducing adaptation time. So similarly, so okay, so one thing is that it has only given me three ideas, but actually if you look at that visual matrix, you can actually have eight action items. So you can always reprompt it, you can always refine the prompt and give a specific instruction at the beginning, saying that give me those eight ideas and give me the eight action items for those ideas. So in this case it has given only three. Yeah, so it has only given three for each of the eight ideas. So you can always run the prompt and you can always ask it to give you more specific you can always give more specific instructions as to how many action items you want, but you get the idea, right? So we have these eight dominant ideas around the problem, and for each of these eight ideas it has given me a list of action items, and then I can run through these action items with my team and figure out out of the 64 which, let's say, top 3 top 5 I want to pick, and then I go with that, and then I address this problem, right? So this is how the whole prompt works. So you can actually uh, tweak this prompt and generate more and more ideas, and you can actually expand it further. So for each of the ideas, you have eight action items. For each action item, you can further expand it to basically sub items and other ways to achieve that action item, and you can expand it. But the suggestion is you should not expand beyond two levels, because then you'll have too many ideas to play with, and then it becomes a problem, to pick and prioritize the ideas, right? So this is how the whole prompt works, and you can actually try it out for your own context, business or the work context, as well. Okay, so now let's come back to the mind map. So you've seen the prompt. Now, finally, what are the caveats of using this framework? So, first thing is, as I just mentioned while explaining the prompts, you have this analysis paralysis problem, because 64 ideas, 64 possible ways to solve a problem is already a huge list. So, you need to basically trim it down to possibly three or five ideas, right? So, in the process, you may have this analysis paralysis problem, right? So, you need to be aware of that. Second thing is, sometimes it can generate random things, and it can also generate too many insignificant themes, right? So especially if you are using AI, and if you are not mentioning your context in the proper way, if you don't mention the context in terms of the industry and the challenge statement or the offerings in an elaborate way, then if you use AI to generate these ideas, you may get some random themes, or you may get some unrelated or insignificant themes, right? So you need to filter them out as well. You need to make sure that all the eight themes the dominant themes around that central core problem are related to it, and they can be solved in a relatively easy way, right? So that's the whole idea about using this framework, and that these are the three things that you must be aware of. Right. So that's it about the Lotus Blossom framework. So you have the framework, you have the diagrammic way of arranging all the ideas, and then you also can use the AI prompts as I showed you to generate those ideas and list them down and then filter them out based on your priorities. So I hope you understood this framework well, and you can apply it to your particular business context and try it out. And if you have any questions, you can put it on the comments below. And then I'll see you in the next video with yet another innovation framework. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.